When Rockstar Games introduced GTA 6 to the world, most people were expecting the usual chaos that the series is known for, with fast cars racing through neon-lit streets, explosions, crime, and over-the-top action unfolding in every direction. And while all of that was definitely there, Rockstar made a very deliberate choice with how they introduced the game to the world. Because instead of opening with something loud and explosive, they chose something much quieter and far more personal. They introduced us to a woman sitting in a prison. Her name is Lucia Caminos. And in just a few short moments, without revealing much at all, Rockstar managed to spark one of the biggest mysteries surrounding GTA 6. Because ever since that first scene, fans have been asking the same questions over and over again. Who is Lucia, really? What did she do to end up behind bars? And why does it feel like Rockstar has already told us far more about her than we initially realized? Because when you start looking closer at the trailers, the official descriptions, and even the smallest visual details hidden in plain sight, it becomes clear that Lucia isn't just another GTA protagonist, but someone who might actually be one of the most carefully constructed characters Rockstar has ever created. Lucia already represents a major turning point for the GTA franchise, and not just because of the story itself, but because of what she represents within the series as a whole, especially when you consider how the games have been structured in the past. For decades, Grand Theft Auto has largely focused on male protagonists, each with their own motivations, personalities, and moral codes. But Lucia changes that dynamic in a very significant way, becoming the first fully voiced, deeply story-driven female lead in the modern era of the franchise. That alone makes her incredibly important. But what makes her truly stand out isn't just that she's different, it's that her story feels far more personal than what we've seen before. Unlike characters who are driven purely by money, revenge, or power, Lucia's motivations seem to be rooted in something much more grounded and relatable: family. According to Rockstar's official character description, Lucia's life has never been easy, and that struggle seems to go back further than we might expect, shaping who she is long before the events of the game even begin. Her family originally comes from Liberty City, the same place featured in Grand Theft Auto 4, which immediately connects her story to a much larger world within the GTA universe and opens the door for potential connections that Rockstar might explore later. Her mother, in particular, dreamed of a better life during their time there, holding on to the idea of success, stability, and something more than the circumstances they were living in. But at some point, that dream didn't work out the way she had hoped. Eventually, Lucia's life shifted to Leonida, where things took a very different turn, and where her story truly begins to take shape in a way that defines everything that comes after. One of the most important details we're given about Lucia comes right at the beginning of her description, and it's a line that might seem small at first, but actually carries a lot of weight once you think about it. Her father taught her to fight as soon as she could walk. That single sentence explains so much about who Lucia is as a person, because from that moment on, fighting becomes a core part of her identity, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally as well, influencing how she reacts to the world around her. At some point in her life, that fighting spirit leads her down a path that ultimately lands her in Leonida Penitentiary, and when the first trailer released, a lot of people assumed that she was in prison for robbery, especially since we later see her committing crimes alongside Jason. But Rockstar clarified something that completely changes how we view her character, because Lucia didn't go to prison for greed or ambition, and she didn't end up there because she was chasing money or power. She went to prison for fighting for her family, and that distinction is incredibly important, because it reframes her entire story in a much more human way, suggesting that Lucia wasn't acting recklessly or selfishly, but instead reacted to a situation where someone she cared about was in danger. She responded the only way she knew how, by fighting back. And unfortunately, that decision came with consequences that she couldn't avoid, ultimately putting her behind bars. But what's even more interesting is how she got out, because Rockstar describes her release as being the result of sheer luck. And that phrase raises more questions than it answers the more you think about it. Was it really just luck? Or is there something else going on behind the scenes that we haven't seen yet? One of the most fascinating things about Lucia's character is how much Rockstar communicates through subtle visual details. And nothing represents that better than the necklace she wears in almost every scene. Lucia is almost always seen wearing a gold boxing glove pendant. And while it might look like a simple accessory at first glance, it very likely carries a much deeper meaning tied directly to her past. Given what we know about her father teaching her to fight, it's widely believed that the necklace was given to her by him, making it a constant reminder of where she came from and the lessons she was raised on. In that sense, the necklace becomes more than just an object, because it represents strength, resilience, and loyalty to family, all of the values that seem to define Lucia as a character. But there's also a subtle detail that makes it even more interesting, because the only time Lucia is not wearing the necklace is when she's in prison, which could simply be explained by prison rules, but knowing Rockstar, it feels far too intentional to ignore. The one moment in her life where she is stripped of the symbol of her father's influence is the same moment where the mindset he gave her leads to consequences she can't escape. Eventually, Lucia is released from prison, but her freedom comes with conditions that immediately remind us she isn't truly free yet, because when we see her outside, she's wearing an electronic ankle monitor. That detail tells us she is still being watched, still being controlled, and still tied to the system she's trying to escape, which adds another layer to her situation that goes beyond just her past. It also creates an interesting possibility for how the game itself might be structured, because some fans believe the ankle monitor could act as a natural way to limit where the player can go early in the game, tying Lucia's personal restrictions directly into gameplay progression. What makes this even more interesting is that later footage shows her without the monitor, suggesting that at some point in the story, that restriction disappears, either because she earns her freedom or because things spiral to the point where she stops following the rules entirely. Despite her desire to build a better life, it doesn't take long before Lucia finds herself pulled back into the world of crime. And from what we've seen so far, she isn't involved in small-time operations. She's taking part in robberies, shootouts, and high-risk situations that clearly place her deep within the criminal world. But what stands out about Lucia isn't just what she does, it's how she does it. She doesn't come across as reckless or impulsive, but instead seems focused and calculated, like someone who understands exactly what she's doing and why she's doing it. It feels less like chaos and more like a plan. And that idea is reinforced by Rockstar's own wording, which makes it clear that Lucia is committed to her plan no matter what it takes, even though we don't yet know exactly what that plan involves. Everything points to one central goal: achieving the life her mother always dreamed of, a life of stability, freedom, and success that has always felt just out of reach. But in a world like GTA, plans rarely go the way they're supposed to, and it seems like everything begins to unravel when one job goes wrong, pulling Lucia deeper into a situation she may not be able to control. At the center of all of this is her relationship with Jason, the man she partners with throughout the story. And on the surface, their dynamic feels like a modern take on the classic Bonnie and Clyde story. Two people navigating a dangerous world together, relying on each other to survive, building something in the middle of chaos. But there's one moment that stands out more than anything else, and it's a moment that has led to one of the biggest theories surrounding the game. When Lucia talks about trust, Jason hesitates, and it's only for a second, but it's enough to raise questions. Because in a story built around loyalty and survival, hesitation can mean everything. Some fans believe that Jason might not be who he appears to be, suggesting that he could be working undercover, possibly connected to law enforcement, and that Lucia's release from prison might not have been random at all. Instead, it could have been part of a larger plan to place someone close to her, someone who could gain her trust and lead authorities to bigger targets. If that turns out to be true, it would completely change the way we see their relationship, because it would mean that from the very beginning, Lucia was being used. Lucia's ties to Liberty City have also opened the door to another possibility: a connection to Luis Lopez, the protagonist of Grand Theft Auto: The Ballad of Gay Tony. Both characters share similar backgrounds, cultural roots, and strong ties to family, which has led some fans to speculate that they could be connected in some way, even if it hasn't been confirmed yet. Beyond Jason, Lucia also appears to have a small circle of close allies, including a young man and a woman who seem to be very comfortable around her, suggesting a deeper connection that hasn't been fully revealed yet. The fact that Rockstar has chosen not to name these characters only adds to the mystery, because it usually means they play a more important role than we realize. At its core, Lucia's story is defined by conflict, because everything about her life seems to pull her in different directions at once. She wants to do better, but keeps returning to crime. She values loyalty, but may be surrounded by deception. She was raised to fight, but that same instinct continues to shape her life in ways she can't fully control. And that constant tension is what makes her such a compelling character, because it feels like everything is building toward a moment where she has to make a choice that defines who she really is. The truth is, we've only seen a small piece of Lucia Caminos' story so far, but even from that, it's clear that Rockstar is building something much deeper than a typical GTA narrative. A character shaped by her past, driven by her family, and forced to navigate a world where every decision comes with consequences that can't be undone. And as the story unfolds, one question continues to stand out above all the others. Will Lucia finally get the life she's been fighting for? Or will everything she's built fall apart?